Talk about having a freaking day of news. We get a trailer for the movie Logan, we get the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer, but most importantly in my mind, and the thing I want to talk about most, the official announcement and our first look at the brand new Nintendo console, which we now know is called the Nintendo Switch. There has been so much speculation about this console throughout the last year, and it's been like 7 or 8 months now since Nintendo officially announced that it would be coming out in March of 2017. They basically ran with the codename NX up until now, and props to them, by the way, for keeping that under wraps, that actually would be called the Nintendo Switch. Throughout this entire process over the last year or so, most of the speculation that I personally saw did indeed deal with the idea of it being somewhat of a hybrid home console / portable console, and I didn't think that they could pull it off to the degree that it looks like they're actually going to. I get if people are skeptical about what actual hardware specs this console might have, but how can you not be incredibly intrigued by the idea of having looks to be a home console quality console that you can take on the go freaking anywhere? I mean, you think about it, we're getting something like Zelda Breath of the Wild that's going to be released on both Wii U and the Nintendo Switch now, and if the Switch is capable of playing a game like Breath of the Wild up to the same quality that even the Wii U does, and most likely better than it even can, you gotta think that's going to be a huge step forward for sort of doing something new, especially within the video game market, whereas the likes of Sony and Xbox are content staying in the living room, and that's okay. I think there always will be a place for that. You gotta hand it to Nintendo for stepping outside the box, in this case, the box being the living room. And keep in mind that all of my personal excitement about the Nintendo Switch comes despite the fact that it's only been about a year since I went out and bought a Wii U, so I guess it'll serve as like a reminder of a time in my life when I wasn't dirt poor. But I also can't help but wonder what this is going to do to the longevity of the Nintendo 3DS. Not to say that that console hasn't already had a very impressive and pretty decently long run, but I have to wonder that if their new console that is going to be basically their premier device can also go on the go anywhere people want to take it, you got to think that the DS is probably going to be, at least to a large degree, kind of phased out. But speculation about that whole thing aside, the other big thing I want to talk about is the return of cartridge-based gaming, which are apparently going to be called game cards now for the Nintendo Switch. But for Nintendo, who's a company that in a lot of ways fell behind the rest of the gaming industry by being so reluctant to move away from cartridges like they did with the Nintendo 64, now it kind of makes sense in a way. It still might be a little bit more expensive to produce, but you look at something and the amount of data that you can hold on something like an SD card, and these game cards are like, at least the ones that for the 3DS, are bigger than your standard SD card. In comparison, a regular Blu-ray disc that's dual layers, which is pretty much the standard, can hold 50 gigabytes worth of data. Whereas a 64 gigabyte SD card, that's not uncommon at all, and I don't think they're that expensive to produce, and that's not even considering the idea that Nintendo is probably going to go heavily with digital downloads, which is, the whole gaming industry is kind of going that route. But I think it's going to be possibly a good move. Loading times are going to be cut down. I think you're still going to have things, I guess to a degree, the data should be rewritable within the cartridges. So things like patches and whatnot could probably be installed to the cartridge itself, rather than needing a separate data source on the actual console. Anyway, that's just some of my first impressions and things I'm excited about with the Nintendo Switch and our first look that we got of it today. I am very eager to see what other devices and peripherals we might get with this console that will eventually enhance the experience, what kind of linkability they might have across different consoles. They kind of showed something with that whole basketball scene and the Splatoon training that you can kind of probably link the consoles and do local multiplayer, not unlike how you already can with the likes of the DS. So I'm eager to hear more, and apparently it's going to be a while before we get a lot more details, but just seeing it in action and seeing the list of third-party developers that are on board, I know Ubisoft has been very glowing in their reviews of the Switch so far, and so I'm excited to see what all comes of it. We're not going to learn more for a bit, and I'm okay with that, I guess. I don't really have a choice, but either way, this is pretty cool, and I think it's going to be an interesting step forward for the entire video game industry. Man, I am ranting. rambling today. Anyway, that's all I have. Whatever thoughts you have, please feel free to share them in the comments. Please like this video if you enjoyed it at all, or if you're just excited for the Nintendo Switch like I am. If you are also a Wii U owner and feel like this is the death sentence for your console, it is, but you know, we had a good run, and let's just hope that maybe they'll re-release Mario Maker to keep up support with that going forward. I really hope so. But anyway, above all else, everybody, thanks so much for watching this video.